Liam Krehbiel. He is the founder and CEO of A Better Chicago, an organization that empowers high-performing nonprofit organizations that are improving educational opportunities for low-income Chicagoans. Using venture philanthropy, he has been able to achieve better outcomes for his organization. He is here today to discuss the use of venture philanthropy and how it accelerates the results for low-income Chicagoans. Please welcome Liam Krehbiel.
Everybody, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
All right, great. Well, it's a real pleasure to be here, and so inspiring to hear about all the other speakers, the amazing, amazing things they're doing, and also, honestly, inspiring to be with you guys here today. And I'm not talking about the parents, I'm actually talking about the students who are part of this, who organized this, who made this happen, as well as the other Parker students who are here. I'm just so impressed and amazed by your passion, your intelligence, and your commitment to things that really matter. So thank you for that. I want to talk to you today about philanthropy, which is something that's really, really important to me, and I think is probably, if I had to guess, important to a lot of people in this room, and how we can accelerate the impact of our collective philanthropy to really make this into a better world for all of us. So there's a definition of philanthropy, in case you are wondering what it is, but to me it's the act of helping people through a financial donation, through a nonprofit, through volunteerism, whatever it is. It's the act of helping people. And I think philanthropy is an amazing thing because it's not something that we have to do. Nobody's telling us that we absolutely have to do anything like that, but we choose to do it. And we live in a country where philanthropy is a very, very big part of life, part of our society. I think that's something we should all be really proud of. There was a study that came out recently that looked at philanthropy across the world, and the United States was ranked number 2 in terms of the rates of generosity, in terms of donating resources and time to charitable causes. Number 1 was Myanmar, by the way. A little cocktail trivia question for you, which goes to show that philanthropy really is a global act. It's not just an American dynamic. It's something that we experience across the world. But I think I am proud of the fact that the United States is ranked number 2 because I think this is a deeply important part of our culture and way of life. I think the idea of philanthropy, again, the act of helping people, is something that is really part of all of us, right? It feels good to help people who are less fortunate. It feels good to help causes that are going to make the world a better place. So I'm really proud of that. And I think that goes to show in the sheer amount of philanthropy that is donated every year by Americans. So in 2014, $358 billion was donated by Americans to charitable causes, which is a really impressive amount. On the other hand, you think about all the challenges we're facing in our city, in our country, in our world. And unfortunately, the last several weeks have been a stark reminder of those challenges that we're facing. And I have listed some of them up here for you to think about, and this is just a very short list of those challenges. And so I think what that makes me think of is that on the one hand, we are a philanthropic society, but it also makes me wonder and question about whether we're using those resources as effectively as we really could be. And are we really having the maximum impact with the finite dollars that we have? And so this is something that I've been really interested in, and I've spent my career working on. And so I have a couple of pieces of data to share with you. There was a report that came out a few years ago on philanthropy, and it asked donors a series of questions about how they make decisions, what they fund, why they fund certain things. And there's 2 pieces of information that I found to be really interesting. The first is that it asked donors what steps did they take, what research did they do before they actually made a donation. And this illustration here shows a little bit about where it shows that basically only 3% of donors took all the steps that you'd expect them or hope them to take before making a financial commitment to a nonprofit organization. So for example, performance was important to them. They actually researched the organizations. They actually compared one organization to the other to find out which one was the best organization. These are steps that, for example, in the investment world, you hope your financial advisor is taking every single time, is that they're making sure they're acting really aggressively and properly diligencing a company before you decide to invest in it. And yeah, that same level of rigor is just simply not happening in the philanthropic space. And here's another piece of data that I found to be really interesting. It asked donors, how loyal are you to your charitable causes, to the organizations you support? And what this shows is that the vast majority of donors are 100% loyal to the specific causes that they're supporting. And while on the one hand, I appreciate anyone who sticks with what works. We just heard about grit, actually, right? So sticking with what works and sticking with it year after year is a really, really important thing. But actually, I think this is telling a different story. I think this is telling the story that we have a stagnant philanthropic market, where we kind of blindly stick with what we're funding year after year, as opposed to really taking a step back to say, is this really the most effective use of my philanthropic dollars? Is this having the desired outcome in society and the world that I want to see, or not? I think this is something that I'm scared about, because if we're not diligencing the organizations that we support, and if we're kind of re-upping every year without really giving us some serious thought, then we're going to have much lower impact than we otherwise could have with our philanthropic efforts. So this is why I spend a lot of time thinking with this and want to work on it. And so what I want to leave you here today is that there's kind of one thing you take away from this presentation, is that when you think about your philanthropy, I want you to kind of put aside the typical charity as usual mindset, and instead, don't give, invest. When you think about your own philanthropy, invest. Don't give, invest. And I think that's just something that our society really needs to reimagine in the coming years if we're serious about tackling the challenges that I listed a little while earlier. We need to shift from a culture of giving to a culture of impact. Okay? Shift from a culture of giving to a culture of impact. And so I want to share with you in the next 12 minutes and 16 seconds is a very quick kind of crash course how-to guide on how to do that. All right? Step one, all right? I have 9 steps. Step one is I want you to shift your thinking, and I want you to think like an investor. So get into an investor state of mind. And so I have a picture here of kind of a pretty well-known investor, Warren Buffett. Can you raise your hand if you know who Warren Buffett is? Just give me kind of a pulse of the room. All right, a lot of people here know him, but not everybody. So just the super quick bio is, Warren Buffett is one of the world's most successful investors and one of the world's wealthiest individuals. So he's an incredible person. He's also an incredible philanthropist. He's been unbelievably philanthropic. Has done a lot of work with Bill Gates in their philanthropic efforts. So I'm going to put some words on the screen, and these are words that that don't necessarily describe Warren Buffett, but describe philanthropy as usual. Let's put it that way. So reactionary, emotional, scattered, conventional, right? So are these the types of words that you would associate with Warren Buffett? Probably not. Probably not. Unfortunately, they are words that typically get associated with philanthropy, right? Here's words that typically would get associated with Warren Buffett, right? Disciplined, focused, value, and a student. And I think, again, when we think about philanthropy, what I want you guys to do is get anchored on those types of words, those types of attributes to really drive your thinking about how you get involved and make an impact. All right, so we've got an investor mindset. Step 2 is picking your priorities. And I think one of the amazing things about our society is there's no shortage of challenges and issues, and there's no shortage of diversity in our collective interests and things we want to get involved in the type of cause we want to get involved in. What I would say to you is, when you're thinking about where you want to prioritize, make a list of everything that's something you care about. Or you can do it as a family exercise, or you can do it with your classmates. Make a list of everything you're interested in, and then force rank, top to bottom, what the most important issues are to you. And the reason to do that is, and this is a lesson straight from Warren Buffett, is that you need to really focus your efforts if you're serious about making an impact. You really need to focus. And when you take more of a scattershot view of philanthropy, just like investing, the reality is you're going to be much, much less impactful. So the key is to focus on what are the most important priorities in your life, and then really double down on those efforts. So now you've let's go back this way. Now you've made your priorities, you have your priorities. Next is set a budget. And so what I did here is I just pulled some information from the website that lists how much people give as a percentage of their gross income for Americans, right? And actually it's a really interesting chart, because what you see is that the lower incomes are the bottom, and it goes up to the higher incomes, and what you see is that people tend to give less as a percentage of their income as they kind of grow up in their income level, and then over time they kind of catch up to it. And my interpretation is not that wealthy people are bad and lower income people are good. I think it's just more of that people are just reactionary in their philanthropy, and as they start to make more money, they just don't kind of make the mind shift to say, oh, actually, I'm doing better now. I can give more back. I think it's almost like a lag effect. So people make more money. It kind of takes a while for them to kind of catch up with their philanthropy. But all I want this to do is to give you a sense of there is information out here to help you benchmark. what your philanthropic budget would be. And rather than say these are targets, I'd say see this as a starting point. All right, so now you have your priorities, you have your budget. What I just ask you to do is think about prioritizing your overall budget in those kind of 1 or 2 or 3 priorities, right? So if you have this overall philanthropic budget, I'd say as a starting point, put 80% in your philanthropic priorities, and then 20% for everything else. So when your buddy or your classmate, your colleague, when they come to you and ask you to help support something, unless it's one of your top 2 priorities, that comes out of the everything else bucket. And I think you really have to cap that. I think it's really easy as you grow older, you get kind of bombarded by requests from a bunch of people, all well-meaning, but it's easy for that to kind of erode into that